G'day folks, a short simple message tonight. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I want you to have a good time, and I wish you a very happy and good time here from a lovely place. I've been walking around listening to a few conversations, looking at a few people, and it has occurred to me that we ought to be a little bit more aware. So what I'm going to do is nutshell the situation that Australia is in right now. And for you, for your families, and for your own information, especially if you're in a responsible position in a family or in an organisation or somewhere. There is no possibility that Australia's secret services and places of power, institutions of power, are not aware at high levels. However, there is a missing element. So when I come up with somebody and speak about general things and everyday things, we talk about pleasant things and exercise and fitness and happiness and all the rest of it. But right now what I'm going to do is try to nutshell it for you. Australia in February next year is going to experience the social credit point system that was tested in Darwin for almost 1 year now. It was launched on Anzac Day this year earlier this year, and by February next year will have been almost 1 year of testing. Then it's going to spread out throughout Australia in a variety of different ways. Also in March next year we're going to experience the 5G system. It's going to be switched on. The infrastructure is already there. We know that is a very dangerous system in many ways. There is a myriad of ways in which the human body and the brain will be affected. So hopefully you'll get that message, and hopefully you'll pass that message on to other people, verbally or in any other way. Share, press the share button. So we've got a social credit point system, we've got the 5G, we've got electromagnetic frequency weapons of all sorts. They're being operated from satellites. We have HARP weather weapons affecting the weather. It's not cow fluffs and Mortine cans. It's actually nanoparticles or particulates being dropped out of drones 24 hours a day. The atmosphere is saturated with them, along with Vigma dust, nuclear Vigma dust that has come from Fukushima. Fukushima was deliberate. It was different rods were put into the reactors and it melted down, and this was all calculated so that it could coincide and work with the currents of the world, the conveyor belt which is above the equator that travels and carries that nuclear radioactive water over to the west coast of America. America is a great target for the New World Order, which is really the old world order of the Middle Ages, where popes and magicians and clandestine style people with cloaks and daggers walk around in black clothes and control the population through fear, Bible and other scriptures and other things, where everybody's illiterate, can't understand anything, goes to the priest controls everybody, including the kings. A lot of this began with Henry IV. William Shakespeare wrote about it. You'll get a lot of this information from Professor Eric John Phelps. You'll get a lot of it from Professor Walter Veith. Trying to nutshell this thing, it does expand, so forgive me if I do happen to go off on a tangent. Other weapons that are being used, the food has been poisoned with genetically modified, it has been genetically modified to withstand glyphosate, which is Agent Orange that came from Vietnam that poisoned all the veterans. Vietnam veterans. That's being now fed to the population, to the animals, and sprayed directly on the crop. So if you're thinking of being a vegan or a vegetarian, you're getting it more directly than you would if you were eating the animals. It tends to be in the fat cells of or fat content in the animal. So try to avoid that. Try to eat organic food if you can. The air, as we said, is being sprayed by chemtrails. Vaccinations are going into the children. No doctor will be able to tell you what's in a vaccination. They have been weaponized. And a binary weapon is one where one part is administered, say, in a vaccination, and another part is administered by something else, something you breathe or something that falls out of the sky or something that you eat. When the two combine, you have poison. It's easy to eliminate a person or people or a population through poisoning because there's no real proof. Did it happen? Didn't it happen? Well, we're not sure. Let's go and debate it in a court for forever and get absolutely nowhere millions and billions and trillions of dollars later. And it'll all be swept under a carpet. Meanwhile, the population of Australia is being taken out. We're being taken out, folks. We're getting sicker, fatter, dumber, and we're dying, and filled with pharmaceutical drugs, because the same people own the pharmaceuticals. They own the banks, they own the industrial complex or the military industrial complex, they own the institutions of learning, so we get indoctrinated from the cradle to the grave, and we believe everything they say in the mass media that is propagandized. And if you think it's not, check out Operation Mockingbird. If you think HARP weather weapons are not real, look up Operation Popeye in the skies over Vietnam and see how it all began. Henry Kissinger was a major player in all of these things. The royal families are major players in all of these things. Why? Because democracy is the enemy of an oligarchical dictatorship. If you want to be a dictator over the planet, you want to keep the people genetically modified and dumb, you want them to have short lives, but you want the reverse for yourself. You want to live for a long time, you want to be very intelligent, very powerful, a little bit like what happened in Japan when the Jesuits first went in there. It is the Jesuits. The Jesuits are the assassins of the Roman Catholic Church. The church is not really a church, it's a facade. It's an institution where people can hide behind frocks and commit a lot of very, very horrific crime. They have infiltrated the bloodlines of the royal families, bred with them, interbred with them, their children and nephews and so on. Ancestors are all bankers, they control world finance, and the people are their enemy. They do not like democracy, they do not like the people having power. It's not about money, it's about power over others. And unfortunately, the narcissistic styled sociopaths tend to rise to the top of power structures. That's where they want to be. Most normal people say, well, I'm content, I'm happy, leave that to someone else. Well, if you leave it to someone else, then one of these types are going to get in. And they are in, and they're controlling the planet, and they're controlling both sides, as they did in World War II, as they did in World War I, and they put all their enemies into the armies of both sides, controlled the leaders, traitor generals, assassins everywhere. If a military leader was a brave man, a strong man, a good man, then some assassin would come out of the ranks and kill him, shoot him, poison them, and various other things. Doctors would carry out their orders as well. So I've kind of painted a picture. It's not by any means complete. This thing has been handed over to artificial intelligence. They don't want to get their hands dirty. They'd rather just walk around being pedophiles with little kids. They've built underground cities for themselves, and this all sounds like science fiction to you because you haven't heard about it in the mainstream news. Well, I thought I'd be the minority news for you today and just give it to you as it is. It's not, as I say, it's much bigger than even that. It's all controlled from satellites and cell phone towers and these little devices that people walk around looking at night and day. The most unfortunate of all of us are the young generations that have no clue and are unable to comprehend the depth of this kind of material, and people that do not historically understand the roots of this and how far back it goes. Even the history that we think we know is false. The institutions that we have been taught in and educated in have taught us in false indoctrination. They have taught us in a pack of lies. This is what we've learned. And to undo that will take a very long time and a lot of looking into the mirror and into your certificate on the wall, your degree, and saying, well, that doesn't mean very much. I better start again. Folks, I don't mean to bring bad news to you, but somebody's got to speak the truth, and somebody's got to stand up, and somebody's got to talk about it in a land where we're not allowed to talk about anything because some homosexual may hear us. That's a very sad situation, especially for the young generation, as I've said before. So I do wish you a Merry Christmas. Put this aside, put it in the back of your mind. Discuss it with people now and again when the opportunity arises. As I say, I don't bring it up with people that I meet every day and people that I know, because all that's going to happen is we're going to bounce it back and forth and we're going to go nowhere with it. But on a video like this, I can place it there, and then the rest is up to you. Best wishes to you. See you next time.